Oh, morning. Welcome to Little Steps Live. My name is Natalie, and today we are filming out of our Hong Kong headquarters. So we'll be keeping you in the know and on the go as always. Hope you guys had a wonderful weekend. Just to remind you, we go live every week, sometimes on different days and at different times. So if you want to be reminded of our live sessions direct to your phone, the best thing to do is check out our events calendar. So we feature the events every week, and then you can click interested in that event or going, and that will continue to give you notifications for when we go live, just to remind you. So next week, for example, we'll be live in the afternoon instead of in the morning. So it is the best way to stay in touch. And we'll be putting up all our events through June, so you'll be able to see all the topics that we'll be covering for those that you'll be interested in. Also, don't forget to sign up for our weekly newsletters. They're jam-packed full of amazing content for all our cities: Hong Kong, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, the works. We'll keep a link in the comments in the description box so that you can click on that to sign up. And also remember that as we are live, I feel like I'm talking really fast. I think I'm very excited.
Calm down.
I know. It's been a long time since I've been on, so I'm like, oh. Remember that we are live today, so you can comment and ask any questions and use the time, especially when we're with experts like Yvonne and with Vinny today, to ask the questions that you want to ask while we have this time with them. If you do have any questions post the live session, we will also make sure that we let them know, and we will respond to you accordingly in that time. So, cool. Let's get on, because the topic is super important, and with summer around the corner and families are heading off on holidays, but also here off to the beach, off on junk trips, having barbecues out by the poolside. It's really a swim season, and out of that comes a lot of our kids being around water. So today we want to highlight a very important topic around swim safety. And so to chat with us today, we have Yvonne Heavyside from the Family Zone, and we have Vincent Alarcon. I knew I was going to say that. We've got Vinny from ESF Sports. Okay, so we're very grateful to have this time with you. So thank you very much for coming in today.
Thank you for inviting me.
So Yvonne is a mom of 3, and she's been working with over 3 decades of experience in healthcare and CPR. And her practice has certified both parents and actually domestic helpers, which we were just talking about earlier, through the years on CPR, first aid, choking, for example. Vinny is a father of 1, and he has been an American Red Cross Lifeguard, first CPR AED instructor, teaching water safety at schools for over 2 decades. Yes. So this is why we have the right people here in our room to be able to kind of chat through this topic. So to start with, I'd really like them to introduce themselves to you so we can learn a little bit more about them and the companies that they work for. So Yvonne, we'll start with you.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm Yvonne Heavyside. My background is I'm a nurse, obviously, and I'm a health visitor, British qualified in the UK to be a health visitor. When I trained many years ago, you either did obstetrics or midwifery, so my background is obstetrics, and then I'm also a first aid and CPR teacher, and most of my day also a lactation consultant. So I have quite a nice mixture of things. Enjoy the first aid and CPR very much. I'm a mother of 3, as you've said.
Keeps you busy too.
2, they're all grown up now, but I'd say 2 of my 3 have had drowning incidents.
Oh my gosh.
It's something I know from personal experience how things happen. They're all grown up now. And I have 2 granddaughters who are actually here and arrived today from Canada this morning.
Shame, we've stolen you.
That's all right. So that's me. Thank you.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Yvonne.
And my company is called the Family Zone.
Yes. And Vinny?
Okay, my name is Vinny. I'm from New York. I work for ESF Sports, the swimming program manager. I've been involved with aquatics for over 25 years as a lifeguard instructor, water safety instructor, which is teaching swimming teachers. And I've literally worked around the world.
Yeah, you have. You were saying earlier, which is pretty interesting. And we were also saying that some of the training can be different in different countries too, which is probably pretty interesting.
Yeah, different countries, different rules, regulations, different standards. So and worked on cruise ships as well.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's a good point. Cruise ships.
Cruise ships.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Cool. Thank you very much. Just to let you guys know, in today's session, we're going to split it up into 3 sections. So we're going to be covering water safety for babies, water safety for toddlers, and then water safety for kids. And there will be some overlapping information in each, but they are just to be able to highlight some of the different areas for each of the categories. And we'll be covering a bit more around some of the common dangers, how to avoid and how we could prepare correctly, how to respond, and maybe some common myths that come up in each of those categories. So, right, cool. Let's get started with water safety for babies. So what do we need to know? What do we think are the common dangers for areas when it comes to babies and water?
Any body of water. I mean, from a bathtub to a toilet to a bucket of water, a fish pond.
Yeah.
Anything that has water involved, and not keeping an eye on the child itself.
Yeah.
But with a parent or a baby, you're always with them.
Yes, it's a little bit easier because they can't do anything on their own and they're not yet crawling off.
But even things like, when they're about 7 or 8 months, they can sit up quite well in the bath. They've got the skills to sit up.
Yeah.
And so it's very tempting. You've got them in the bath, they're having a little splash around, and you think, I'll just get their pajamas ready, I'll just get the towel. And just in those few seconds, they can fall forward. And at this age, they don't have the skills to get back up. And I have had 3 clients in Hong Kong whose babies have drowned. Not all 3 died, but had incidents in the bath from being left alone just for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then the 4th one was a bucket of water had been left in the bathroom, and the 11-month-old fell in the bucket of water and drowned in the bucket of water. So it's not just, people always think it's swimming pools, but it's not. And then the other thing is they have no sense of perspective. So you might be, say, at the poolside, and everyone knows that, the poolside ends and the water starts, but babies don't understand that. So they may just be crawling around and then just they're off and into the water. So
And it takes a matter of seconds, right? Seconds.
Yes, yeah.
And we were saying before about actually swimming lessons. So from your side, Vinny, like you can start them quite young for swimming lessons.
We start at 4 months, and other programs in Hong Kong start at 4 months. It's a common age. It's a great age to get them started because we start at 4 months. They still have the gag reflex, so they know how to close their mouth and nose and to go under. But we teach the parents how to hold their children and how to do the lessons themselves at home.
Okay.
So you guys actually have a good article about the best pools in Hong Kong. So there's lots of pools around Hong Kong, a lot of clubs, a lot of they're everywhere.
It's a divine bonding thing, I think, but we also did it, I was saying, with our eldest when she was 4 months, and I think it is actually how much we got to learn, because you feel scary to kind of like dunk them under the water, right?
Yes.
But actually they very naturally water babies.
Yeah, they love it. They love it. It's just, sometimes they cry because it's a new environment, it's a lot of noise, but once we have 2 problems. The first day of class, they always cry a little bit.
Yeah.
And then towards the 2nd or 3rd class, we have the problem when we try to get them out. They're crying because they want to stay.
Yeah.
So, just starting at 4 months, and after 1 term, they're about 8 to 9 months. So they're already developed, and they're fearless, which is another problem.
That is, you're right.
Their
fearlessness. And I had that problem with my daughter because I taught her how to swim early.
Yeah.
But she learned how to float on her front and on her back, but she didn't know how to turn over. So we were in Macau, she ran right to the pool, everyone that was local was screaming, don't, and she jumped in, she dove in, and she was just floating. So, I let her float for a little bit just so she could learn, and then I flipped her, and then she learned how to float on her back, so I knew right away. I had to teach her how to float on her back, not only on her front.
God, yeah, it's all those. So the gag reflex is till what, do we know till what age? That's the very early stages.
I don't know, to be honest.
Okay.
I don't know.
I think it ends around 6 months.
Okay.
They still have it till 4 months, so 4 months is the right age where you can blow in their face. They'll close their eyes. You have to make sure they close their eyes and mouth. They'll do it automatically. So if all the moms at home that want to try before you go into the pool, just hold it and give cue words. 1, 2, 3, ready, and go under.
Drop. Okay.
But if they don't close their eyes and mouth, they're not ready.
Oh, I
but the
see.
babies will
Okay.
do it automatically.
Okay.
And our
Oh.
instructors know how to do that. And this is what we teach the parents on how to do it.
Okay, yeah, I think that's super important and kind of get used to so that you also get your confidence when you're in the
There's a
water with
fear,
your baby.
and as being a parent, you don't want your child to be hurt, of course.
Yeah.
So a lot of parents are afraid to do it, and they won't get their kids'
Yes.
heads wet. So
Yeah, my husband did that. He was like, don't. I was like, look what I've learned.
Yeah.
And he was like, don't do that.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've learned it in like a swimming lesson. So, so what are the things that we can, obviously we were saying, I think one of the common areas to prepare and for us to kind of avoid bad situations is what you were saying, Yvonne, is the constant watching, right?
Yeah.
It's the easier said than done.
Yeah, just do not take your eyes off them, and this is the rule for all ages, even teenagers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who, you might think they're good swimmers or whatever, but you just need to be fully focused and have a designated watcher,
Yeah.
particularly for older kids who think they can swim. I mean, with a baby, I think most people would watch a baby, but don't take your eyes off them. If the
Yeah.
doorbell goes, you just leave it. If you're at the pool and they're floating around and someone calls for you, you pick the child up and you take them with you.
Okay.
Also, just one other thing, with little babies, I do sometimes see in the pool people taking little babies into the pool and they're screaming
Yes.
and very unhappy. And you really have to think about the water temperature as well. Babies are not good at retaining heat.
Okay.
Especially the lower birth weight babies, the younger babies. So think about the temperature of the pool, because they can get hypothermia, especially if there's a wind chill factor.
Yeah.
And little babies are very
They really,
open to
yeah.
that.
I had that
Duration
recently,
too,
yeah.
not-
Yeah.
not
Scream
too
and the
long.
beach, and they were my
Yeah.
parents were like forcing
Yeah,
and forcing, and this
yeah.
child was screaming.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a good point to recognize.
Another thing is the floaties. You mentioned the floaties.
Yeah,
Yeah.
floaters.
You can't rely on floaties.
No.
You cannot
Okay.
rely on them at all, because I've seen kids literally with the circle once flip over, and then once
Yes.
it's flipped over, they can't get up. And if the parent's not watching or the lifeguard's occupied, that kid will stay under. Like I saw, if you go on YouTube, you can see these, these spas. where
Yes,
the
I've
things-
seen
Yes.
those.
you
Yeah.
can
yeah.
There's videos where the kids are flipped over and no one's watching them. So or even the rafts, they can drift off in the raft, and if the parent's not watching,
It's-
it'll be too late.
Actually, it's true. We got one of those really good ones that you strap my son into. It's got all the water floats or whatever. And we were in the pool where it was really shallow, so it was like they could walk. So you think all these things are great, and he literally straight away. And I got such a fright. I was like, I took it all off. I was like, we're not doing this. This is like, because they can't get their legs back up because it's automatically flipping their legs up, and now you get such a fright. So, yeah.
And
I
then
think,
they panic too.
yes.
So
yes.
they're panicking, they don't know what to do, and they're screaming and all the things, so they're inhaling a lot of water.
Yes.
And you mentioned the lifeguards. We were
No.
talking earlier about this, but I wouldn't rely on the
No.
lifeguards. They
have not had good
no.
history
They
here
do not
in
have
Hong
a good
Kong,
history
yeah.
in Hong Kong. And, they're often there for hours and hours
It's
in
the
the heat.
heat.
Yeah.
And, I'm not saying I could do any better, but they're not to be relied. There have been too many incidents
Yeah.
over the years. I've been here 23 years, and almost every year I hear of one or two cases where the lifeguards have totally missed it or haven't known what to do. So you are, the parent is the lifeguard.
Yeah.
You cannot rely on anyone else.
Yeah.
Domestic helpers.
Yes, I think a very good point.
Also, if it's a domestic helper with the child, many domestic helpers cannot swim.
No. Mhm.
So
We
Vincent,
talk about
you have
Yeah.
So
Splash. So
perhaps you could
Splash
talk
is
about
a
that.
wonderful program for the domestic helpers, usually on Sundays.
Okay.
I don't know if they do any weekday classes, but they really help the domestic helpers, and domestic helpers like it
Yeah.
because it gives them something to do on the
Yeah.
weekend. A lot of them can't swim, so that's another factor that you have to
consider,
and
yeah.
CPR first aid. I don't think a lot of them know first aid or CPR, so.
Yeah.
If you can send your helper for first aid CPR and even to learn how to swim, it's just
These are great,
another added
yeah.
factor.
And also
Yeah.
we were saying the difficulty at a lot of the swimming pools in the complexes where they don't allow domestic helpers in the water, but they are, what we were saying, are our best kind of eyes on the kids.
They care more about the kids and
They
the lifeguards.
do, and we'll be like, hello Yvonne, I haven't seen you, and they're not. They are just looking after the kids, and actually they're perfect, but they're not allowed to go in the water sometimes. And yeah, I think that's another point, but I think domestic helper area.
On another point, on top of that, sorry,
No.
is the cell phones, tablets, books,
don't.
just
Absolutely.
leave it in your bag. Turn it off.
Cell phone
It
is-
can wait. But the
Yeah.
time with your child and everything else, that's the most important thing, is to focus on. You don't want to have to go through a child drowning or being distressed or anything else.
Because you were
checking up your Facebook or even watching this program.
And you know, again, the distraction, you might be the designated person watching, and then some incident goes on, there's a fight over there, and you're like, whoa, what's going on over there? You're losing that time that you're supposed to be focused on the baby or whatever.
Child.
So it's really, if you are with them in the pool, you
That's
have to be
your
100% focused the whole time.
And what are the things if something now does occur? So they flipped forward, obviously depending on the time that you're able to get to them, because it doesn't take very long for them to be able to obviously take in a lot of the water. What are the first things that we need to do in that situation?
Well, seeing safety first. Don't go leaping in the water if there's a strong current and be dragged along with them, or end up, falling and banging your head.
Right.
Do you want to carry on?
Yeah, don't panic. You panic, and once you save the child and they see you're panicking, they'll become afraid, and then they'll start to panic and be afraid of the water.
Yeah.
Just focus, be relaxed. I know it's hard to say and to do, but just don't panic. Focus on that moment.
Okay.
If the child does go under, depending upon how long they go under for, always be worried about, and this is where we're going to bring up secondhand drowning.
Yeah. So in order, if they're not breathing, we pull them up and they've taken in and they're not breathing.
We check for responsiveness first.
Okay.
So get them out of the water. If you've got bystanders, ask someone to call 999. Even if you're not sure, it's better to have 999, have help come.
Yeah, always.
And always ask for an AED. Most of the pools now, an automated external defibrillator.
Okay.
Most of the pools will have them, and we now use them for babies as well if they're available. When I trained, we only ever used them on adults.
Okay.
So in that time, you can say, you call 999, see if there's an AED available.
And what is an AED?
It's a defibrillator. If you watch ER or any of these
Okay.
emergency programs, and they bring the body in and then they go, stand clear.
Oh my gosh.
You don't have to do it like that. They're so easy now.
Okay.
You open it and it tells you what to do.
Oh, okay.
It literally tells you what to do.
Oh, okay.
So that's the big one. That's what a defibrillator is.
Okay, so it's the
AED
same.
is an automated external defibrillator. It comes in like a little backpack.
Okay.
And it's got instructions on it, and it talks to you.
Oh, okay.
So, and they are pretty much, they're all over Hong Kong. Even
They're
on the
everywhere.
escalator,
Restaurants,
I saw one the other day.
buildings have them.
Yeah.
They're everywhere.
Yeah.
Do not be afraid of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
As soon as you open it, it'll say, call 999.
Yeah.
Put the gloves on. Place the pads on the person. They'll walk you through
I
it.
see.
And they're in different languages, so if you have one that's in the local language, on the side of it there's a button.
Okay.
So it'll change the language. Yeah, but most of them are probably in English.
Okay.
So as soon as that's, that you've got that, then you would start your CPR. Now, the course I teach, we do 30 compressions, 2 breaths. The British guidelines are to do 5 breaths first, because we're talking infants here, and then 30 compressions, 2 breaths. So if you're trained in the UK, you will be told to do your 5 rescue breaths, then 30 compressions, 2 breaths. But most other places, certainly the course I teach is American.
2 breaths, 30 compressions.
30 compressions, 2 breaths.
Okay.
So they would say do compressions first.
Okay, and you would do the compressions with the AED? No,
No, the AED will tell you. So you start your compressions, and someone will bring the AED, but while you're waiting for the AED, you do your 30 compressions in an infant, so we're talking under 1 year, using 2 fingers just below the nipple line to a depth of 1 to 1.5 inches.
Okay.
And nice and fast, don't be afraid to do it fast.
Okay.
30 compressions. Open the airway, so head tilt, chin left. Cover the nose and the mouth in an infant. 2 breaths. And when you do the breaths, you're not blowing the balloon up. So just enough to fill the lungs, and you can see the lung rising.
If you see the stomach going up, you're too much.
It's
too much.
And that's one of the common mistakes, isn't it?
You're like in your.
It's a little child, a little infant. And also, you do the hands on the head as well, right? Or
Well, that's the American thing, but I don't know why you do that. I usually say to people, forget that. But yeah, so you've got like one hand on the head and 2 fingers on the chest, but nowhere else does that. So why are you supposed to put the hands on the
so
head?
that we know not to use the 2 hands. That's one of the reasons, because a lot of people do the 2 hands and then break the ribs, and also because if you're doing it in a certain way, the head will bounce back up and down on a real life baby.
Oh, okay. So it's
even on the infant, on the baby Annie, the head goes up and down. You can hear it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Interesting. Yeah, because I would say, don't worry about the head. Just get on with your 2 fingers. But that's useful information.
There was something else that we were talking about, but we'll get back to it.
The compressions,
yeah.
And then you're going to wait for. So you were saying if it's too much, you're blowing in. Your breaths are too much air that you're blowing in, and then you get them back. So they I assume
hopefully they come back to life.
Do they cough out the water?
They'll often vomit after.
The foam will come out.
And then you keep
them in the recovery
turn
position.
them onto the side in the recovery position, and always take them to hospital. Even if they're sitting up and chatting, always go to hospital.
Okay, so now I want to talk about then that you keep, because what they will normally do is keep them in for observation for like a 24-hour period or something. So can we touch on the secondary drowning? What is that? This is super interesting.
There's 2 things: there's secondary drowning and dry drowning, and they're often confused. It's very rare.
Okay.
And this is usually when it's not a case of water getting taken into the lungs, the airway has gone into spasm. Or if there is water taken into the lungs, they get pulmonary edema.
Yes.
So their lungs over time, they're usually not well after the incident. It's unusual for them to be fine, but over 24 hours, the acidosis occurs and the pulmonary edema starts to increase, and there's a lot of fluid around the lungs, and then they become very, very ill.
Okay.
It's not common. It's less than 2%.
Okay.
I don't
Anything you want to add?
No.
I just think
I would be careful anyone that goes underwater for any period of time.
You're going. It's the same to a knock on the head or whatever. You just got to.
It's concussion.
You've got to kind of just watch them for that first 24 hours.
Anything.
Yeah. So I know that was I kind of put that down as a bit of a myth, because I've heard lots of kind of differing, everyone's got slightly differing sections on it, and we were saying that TV series came out and they touched on the secondary drowning and everyone panicked, like what is this? And so I think it was more like thanks for like understanding, but I think knowing that what to do is whatever the amount of time is, keep them in a 24-hour kind of watch if you can take them.
There's another thing now that's going on. It's been going on for the last couple of years, but underwater blackouts.
Okay.
So this is where kids, elite swimmers used to do it. We used to teach to hold your breath to do underwater swims.
Yeah.
So kids, when they hold their breath for a certain amount of time and they're swimming back and forth underneath the water, they can pass out.
I thought that was dry drowning, actually. So that's called underwater blackout.
Blackout.
Oh, blackout.
Blackout. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it happens.
Because there's the blood levels. I can't remember. I'm not so technical. The oxygen and the carbon dioxide interchange.
Because they're working out so much, or they're swimming.
Yes,
so it happens a lot.
We were crazy as kids. I remember.
Yeah, we used to hold their breath along.
Yes. And then we used to hold our chest.
Oh, I used to do that too. That would explain a lot for me. Lack of brain cells.
So for me too. That makes some sense.
Yeah, no underwater games like that.
Oh, okay,
Tell the kids to stop.
It's like,
and there's been cases where the kids are asthmatic, and they're much
that can
more
also affect.
at risk of this if they're asthmatic.
But it's also been like elite athletes too. It's happened to.
Okay.
I was going to say the other one I was going to mention was the cold water drowning.
Okay.
So in infants with cold water drowning, they can be resuscitated a long time afterwards. They go into something called a mammalian response, which is very interesting. I'm not an expert on it, but with premature babies, what we do now is we actually induce hypothermia.
Right.
So they go into this hypothermic state, and then gradually they're warmed up as they get closer to maturity, and the body triggers the natural breathing and everything. And this seems to happen in young children in very cold water. They go, and there's been a well-documented case in the UK where a baby was in a pushchair, mother was walking by the riverside, it was a windy, cold day, pushchair gets blown into the river, dragged along, eventually someone manages to get the baby out, and I think I read that they did CPR for 2 hours. So normally people would think, whoa, this is
done,
way too long,
10 minutes.
10 minutes. But what is discovered is that the baby, it's almost always the baby, goes into this hypothermic state, and as their body then is warmed up and the blood
it takes longer for them to have to kind of pump that back in.
And they have no brain damage or issues because but this is because of
the shock of the okay.
So it is quite interesting. So I would say my tip would be never give up with the CPR, just keep going.
Okay.
It's a lot of stories where you see Bonsai Rescue, I used to watch that all the time.
Yeah.
So this Japanese guy who was out there for like over 10 minutes underneath the water, they found him, they brought him back, they did the CPR, the AED, and he came back, he got up, and he wanted to go get out of the ambulance. And they're like, you've been under the water for over 10 minutes, we can't believe you're still alive.
Yeah.
So you never know.
You've got to just keep,
Another key point I want to bring up, and this is, I was at the pool yesterday with my daughter, is kids running on the deck. I can tell you horror stories about adults chasing the kids and the kids running on the deck, breaking fingers, cracking their heads open, and just do not. I know the kids are excited, and you're excited as well, but to make sure you teach them the pool rules. No running, no jumping in, no swimming without a lifeguard or an adult. Just simple rules and just.
Mine was recently we were just on holiday at a friend's house, and around the pool was brick, but then the house kind of veranda was tiled, and you had like no water. You had like a drop of water, and you would just And both my kids, I'd literally be screaming at them like, stop! And they both, as soon as they touched it, they just, and you're like, oh my gosh, that is rock hard, like marble tile that you've just fallen on. But I think a lot of the complexes, it looks lovely to have, tiles, but it's so unhelpful when kids are wet, and they walk quickly or whatever, and they haven't dried. So, okay, cool. Thank you guys. Just to remind you if you've just joined, I am talking to Vinny and to Yvonne today about Water Safety 101. We've split the talk up into 3 sections, just covering babies, toddlers and kids and kind of teens, just to kind of talk through some of the common dangers, also some of the myths and how we can kind of prepare ourselves and help in these situations. So Yvonne is from the Family Zone and Vinny is from ESF Sports, and they have lots of amazing experience in this area of CPR and water safety, which is why we've got them in today. So please let us know if you have any questions. I don't know if there's any questions that have come through on the baby section, but we'll answer any questions after each of the categories or at the end as well, so we won't forget you. So moving on, I wanted to go on to toddlers. This is quite an interesting area, I think, because we've obviously got the crawling, running, new swimmers,
fearless.
The
fearless
age.
Yes.
And it happens even quicker. A run and jump, and it's just. And I think at this age we start to feel like we're a bit more confident as parents, and we do things like junks and stuff like that with young kind of toddlers. So I'd love to kind of chat about what are the big dangers here when we start to get to this kind of new swimmer stage.
Well, I think the toddlers in general, as you said, they're very overconfident. And they think they can do stuff. It's not just swimming, they think they can hike or,
climb
ride
trees
a bike or whatever. And so it's this kind of overconfidence.
Right.
So I think it's important to teach them the importance of rules around the pool, around the sea, on the junk, anywhere near water, and explain why. They will respond to explanation, some will. So you will explain why, what would happen if they were to, jump in the pool or whatever. But it's probably, my feeling is of the 3 age groups, the infants, the toddlers and the older ones, this is the one where you really have to have your eyes on them every second. because you're just distracted for 1 second and they're off. Or under the water, or we often say don't leave toys floating in the swimming pool,
right?
Or, but they might be by the pool and they'll see something and they think, oh, I like that, and they're off. They don't say, can I get it? So it's just being 100% focused on them all the time. Really.
Yeah, I think they are definitely, that is the hardest, and they move so quick.
They move so quick.
They are gone.
And they're very agile, and whereas you or I would be perhaps, so I'll step over here, they're just like, straight in.
So,
It's water. I mean, they're always attracted to water. Like you said, with toys, or the ones that do know how to swim think they're superior swimmers, so they go out too far and then they can't come back, or they get tired. Unless they're taught how to float.
They're tired, that's so true.
They're tired.
They can't tell it themselves.
They don't know.
Especially in the sea. And they're just like, they can go and go and go, and then actually they don't have the strength anymore.
And they think there's a bottom.
Yeah.
So they're not taught that there's no bottom.
Yeah.
They'll keep swimming until they realize they
and
can't swim anymore.
Panic, I also thought about life jackets. So like on things like junks, or even when you go on ferries here and stuff, I always panic because the kids' life jackets, like, is it worth getting your own? I think a lot of people have started kind of having their own, because sometimes you're not guaranteed that it's going to fit. So you just have a one size fit all for kids, but your child might be much smaller than that, and so then it's no use, right? I mean, it's better than nothing.
It's better than nothing, but are you going to bring that life jacket with you everywhere?
No.
And are you going to store it?
What would you use the life jacket for, in case the junk went under, or as a...
So on junks, I think they have to wear it the whole time. The kids that are on have to wear it the whole time. They're not allowed to take it off.
Okay.
But I don't know if, like, in the nicest possible way, if I would like do it, do I just trust in their life jackets, like that they're okay?
You always check it, always test it. I mean, on the ferries, it's funny that you mention that, because the ferries, unless you know where the life jackets are at, you have to look for it, because they're not in the same spots as adults.
No.
Of course, an adult life jacket, the kid will go right through it.
No, it's not.
In part of our PE program at our schools, we teach how to put the life jackets on and how to tighten it correctly.
Okay.
Just putting a life jacket on isn't going to help anyone. So you have to make sure it's clipped in, zipped up, and it's tight. Otherwise, when they go in the water, and you can check on YouTube, they go right through. So their arms and everything, they go right through, or they go above, or they go face down or face back.
Yeah.
So just you yourself learning how to put that life jacket on. Also, a lot of parents don't know how to do it.
No,
go ahead.
I think, like, the same if you do boat trips. Like, we were again on holiday now in the Easter, and we do a boat trip, and you just go, and then you get on the boat, you're like, oh, they got life jackets. Like, are they like the right size for my kids? Like, have they had? I suddenly you feel like I've done it a bit late in that. So
you never know.
You do see. I mean, I've been on like boat trips out, say, to Sai Kung, and you see kids in the water with life jackets on, and they're using them as a kind of swimming
to just float in the sea.
That's not good.
Okay.
Because they'd have. I mean, I know that's what they're there for, but they're much better being supervised and taught to swim, or in the shallow to go to the beach
element.
And supervise their play in the water by all means, but not just left floating around.
In the deep sea.
Because if there's a sudden gust or something, they can be washed away. Just like the linos or whatever. Currents are very unpredictable.
Yes.
They're not good.
But they even surprise us as adults, right? You'll be swimming away chatting, and then you turn and the boat is in complete, like, oh, I thought the boat was right there, and now it's not. So, like, even for us, but I don't know. Life jacket, I just thought about it, and I noticed when you get the ferry here, they always mention it in the safety thing, and it always makes me think, like, really? Like, what is that? Where are the kids like? Do you think that they are very good? I don't know.
They're usually on the bottom. It depends on the ferry. Like, I take the Move ferry every day, and they're downstairs on the bottom, but if their kids are upstairs, there's no way they're going to get downstairs, and they're going to panic, and everyone's going to panic on the ship.
Yeah, so anyway, it's interesting, I thought, but...
Can we just go back to one thing with the first aid CPR courses? And I teach them as well, but when you teach it, the one thing that I'm so shocked about is when the nannies and the parents, they don't know what the local emergency number is.
No, that's a good point, actually.
It's a hugely good point.
That's a very good point.
Do you ask your nanny when you go home today and say, what's the emergency number?
Yes, that's a
and they'll look at you.
I had an emergency in London, and I stood and I had to stop this little 10-year-old. I said, what is the emergency number? I've been there like 14 years.
Yeah.
And I was
actually,
like...
that's good. And also, if they're going to the pool or whatever, you know, sometimes they don't have the phone with them. It might be in a
Yes.
locker, or they might be the seat.
True.
They need to know where the nearest phone is, or
To make that,
to be
yeah.
accessible, where the AED is,
Yeah.
and really familiarise themselves. Also, ideally, how to give their address in Chinese.
Oh, in Chinese, I never thought about
Or
that.
even the number, like years ago, I called for an ambulance, and the address was 90 Repulse Bay Road, and it went to 19 Repulse Bay
Yeah.
Road. So ideally, learning the number in Chinese if they're not Chinese speakers, but if not, to be able to very clearly say 90 Repulse Bay Road,
Right.
or 19,
Yeah.
and to teach them how to say that. Yeah, that's a
Even
good
at
one.
kids, I taught my daughter when she was like 3 to 4, where our address was, where our
Yes, telephone number,
the
yes.
999 in case my wife and I become unconscious.
Yes.
But
It's
also
true,
available
999.
addresses.
Just so it's true though. It's also because if
Or when you go on vacation, you know what that number is. You don't know.
Exactly. Yes.
So that's a good point. So knowing the number, knowing how to get to that number. So as you were saying, I think Yvonne earlier, in that kind of moment where something needs to be done, there are normally most times some other people around, so you can kind of delegate.
Always do. If you're the
Yeah.
first aider, so if the child's pulled out of the pool,
Yeah.
and you know the first aid, don't waste your time running off.
Yeah.
Look for someone, ideally someone who would speak Chinese, who could
Communicate and get.
and ask them to go, but always ask them to come back and tell you that they've
Okay.
made the call, because it may be, you know, I ask him and he's like an illegal immigrant and he's thinking, well,
I'm not
I'm
gonna
not getting
phone,
involved in
yeah.
this.
Well,
So
that's another thing. You have to be specific. You call 999 because everyone else is going to assume that someone's calling
and they're all
999.
like
No
on
one's
their
actually done
phone,
it. Yeah.
but maybe
They
their
must-
video,
video,
people seem
yeah.
to like, you know,
What is that? It's
but
disgusting.
they're not actually making the call.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right. You need
Actually
to
make
know
sure that someone's
making
doing
the call.
that. Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
true. Because you think, oh, that's fine. He's probably calling. You're like, no one's actually calling.
No one's calling because
No.
everyone assumes everyone's
Right.
calling.
True.
Right, yeah.
So
Good
just
point.
make sure you
Yeah.
get to that. Call 999.
Okay, all right.
Get the AED, come back, and also you have to let the front desk know. There's a front desk know
Yes.
where you're at, because
Yeah.
these EMTs they're not going to know where the pool is at.
No.
Okay.
No.
So the pool, like I don't know, in these buildings, could be on the top floor,
Right,
could be in the
okay.
back.
Points,
Okay.
So just-
And again, you'd have that perhaps if you have a helper, you would perhaps have on her phone and something say with 999 and the emergency number for the management of the building,
Right.
and the address, just so that it's there for
We've
her,
always
or on
got.
the fridge.
Do you know that we've got that on the
on
phone?
the fridge, you should have it on the fridge.
Yeah, so on the phone also you've got like an emergency setup so that
Yeah.
because everyone's locked their phone, but there's a way in which you can swipe up, I think, and
iPhones.
it allows you to save your emergency contact so that they can still phone. If I've got Vinny saved in there, that person can phone to let you know that there's an issue. So yeah, I think just being very aware of those areas. But yes, on the fridge, I think like doctor's details, like your the emergency. I think going abroad, I think that's really it's so important to know the emergency contact numbers. I've just had so many friends have things happen when they've gone overseas, and been on holiday. So I was going to say something else, but now I've forgotten. It was just so much that you could speak about. With toddlers, what happens when we're in that situation where we then had to rescue? Oh, I was going to ask you. Lifeguards on the beaches in Hong Kong.
Beaches, pools.
Beaches, are they pretty good? Because there seems to always be one in the water, kind of one in his lifeguard stand.
The lifeguards at the beaches are pretty good. Even at the pools, you have to keep an eye on them. You're in charge of your own child. Don't
Exactly.
don't
they're
rely
not
on the
babysitters.
lifeguards.
Yeah, okay.
You're in charge. Yeah, that's
You don't know if
good.
they're sleeping with their glasses on or if they have their phones. Public pools are a little bit better than some of these residential pools because residential pools are not adhered to anything.
Okay.
So always keep an eye on them. If they're sleeping, tell the supervisor or management office.
Okay.
They're pretty good about that. I have to say, when I go to Macau, I usually go to Galaxy.
Yeah.
Those lifeguards are phenomenal.
Okay.
They have their rescue tubes. They're walking around.
Yeah.
They're trained by Ellis. So Ellis lifeguards are usually the best kind of lifeguards.
Oh, okay, cool. And then same situation. So now we've got toddlers that are out and about running around. They probably started to learn, some of them, to swim. So they probably also fearless in trying to do more than what maybe they can or capable of. Situations for what to do when we're in that situation again. If we can run through, right, we've pulled them out.
Yeah. Check the scene. Always check the scene.
Okay.
Scene safety is your number one. Always.
Scene safety.
Yes.
Is it safe for me to approach? Am I going to slip, or is there electricity, or are there other children involved?
I
So
see.
scene safety first.
Okay.
Get them out, and then check for responsiveness.
Okay. So you check a pulse.
No, don't
Don't
do
have to
pulse
check
checks
It's too
anymore.
Okay.
technical now.
No.
Is it?
It's hard to
Okay.
find on a real life
Yeah,
baby
it is,
or
yeah.
even a child. So
Okay.
Just tap and check.
Assume.
Hey, you okay? You
Okay.
okay? If they open their eyes and go help, then they're responsive.
Okay.
If they don't, then they're not responsive. You're then looking for the chest. Is the chest moving? Can you
Right.
see anything? And to be honest, in all the real life cases I've been involved in, you can see by the colour immediately.
Right.
It
Okay.
doesn't take a minute. So no pulse checks. Are they responsive? Are they breathing? If not, make sure someone's calling 999. Start CPR.
Okay.
So we're talking children now. So for a child, CPR, one hand, heel of your hands, in between the nipple line.
Yeah.
So with a baby, we're doing just below
No,
the nipple
okay.
line. In a child or adult, at the nipple line, heel of your hand, on the sternum, straight arm, 30 compressions, about 1.5 to 2 inches deep.
Wow. Okay.
Fast.
Wow.
Think about what you're doing. You're not doing anything fancy. You're not massaging the heart or anything.
No.
You are just pumping
for
the
that.
oxygenated blood to the brain to stop the brain becoming brain damaged and to get that oxygenated blood pumping around the organs. So
Okay.
your job as a CPR person is as a pump. You're just
Okay.
a pump.
Okay. And then the breaths,
To
just into the mouth, but all.
yeah, you pinch the nose, and this is a child.
Yes.
So pinch the nose and 2 breaths, not
Okay.
too hard.
Okay.
Look for the
Oh,
chest
okay.
to rise and fall. If the chest doesn't rise and fall, it's possible there's an obstruction.
Oh, okay.
So you would look for an obstruction, but if not, you just keep going.
Just
Because
keep
even
going.
there is, you
Go,
just keep
yeah.
going.
Okay.
the one thing that I learned that I see a lot of people make a mistake on when we teach it is the squeezing the nose. They
Oh, okay.
always forget to squeeze the
Oh,
nose.
okay.
I don't know
so
about
that's a good.
you.
Yeah,
okay.
it's true. I suppose because in the mannequins, you don't squeeze the nose. Well, my mannequins, you don't. So you're supposed to cover the.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So,
Okay.
but yeah, you're right actually. Yeah,
So-
and then AED, as you were saying
AED.
earlier.
Right.
With the AED, they have the pads, they have pediatric pads. If they don't have the pediatric pads, you're supposed to, for a child, if it doesn't fit on the heart and chest, you're supposed to put one pad on the front and one pad on the back, just so you know.
Okay.
Because a lot of these, unless they're in schools, but a lot of these AEDs won't have the pediatric. They shouldn't touch each other. So
Oh, I see. Okay.
if they're touching or they're getting too close, one on the back, one on the front. It doesn't matter which one it is, because they
Okay.
do have diagrams on it, but just one on the back, one on the front. and
Of
then-
the body, one on the
Of the
back,
body,
one on
yeah.
the front.
One
Right.
there
Okay.
and one there.
And then
Because
you're
the
gonna.
pads are pretty big.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I
But
see.
once again,
Because you can't.
do not be afraid of AEDs. They tell you
They
what to
are
do.
user friendly.
Yes.
They talk to you
Okay.
in a like a robotic voice.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know
We
that
should
at all.
You have a training one?
I don't have a training one, which
Yeah.
is a shame really because I think it's important.
Yes.
Very good.
You have training ones, do you?
In Saudi I did. I didn't bring in any
Yeah.
here. They're hard to
Yeah.
find. You
They're
have to-
very hard to find, and then
Oh.
each time you have to buy the
Oh, the pads.
the pads, and it's so expensive.
Yes.
Oh, I see.
So if you're teaching, say, a class of 10, and then you've got 10 pads, and then
Oh, you'd have
it's
to
a
keep
lot of
using,
money
right,
to
okay.
use. But I generally think if they're available, there must be someone who's been trained to use them, but perhaps not.
You would think.
Yeah.
You would hope.
You would hope, yeah.
But then
Especially
once
with
again,
the-
YouTube, there's everything out there that shows.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that you can kind of
Get on
learn more and teach more. And are there any kind of common myths around kind of toddlers and drowning and water safety around toddlers? I mean, we spoke earlier
I think the
about
noise, people always think when children drown, you're going to have lots of splashing and shouting.
True,
But
yeah.
that's not true. When they drown quickly and quietly.
They just go
They
under.
just-
oh, that's
Yeah.
awful.
There's no noise. You might hear a little splash as they fall in, and then they're gone. So it's not like
struggling and big dramatic.
Even adults
TV.
don't struggle much, do they?
You would see, like, if your child's swimming like this for a little bit, and then all of a sudden you see their legs going down,
that's a good
and then
one.
you'll see the head,
Yes,
and then the arms will
that's
try
true.
to go around, and either they'll say help, 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 or they'll just. That's yeah.
So that's for a swimmer.
That's a
if they're a
distressed
swimmer
swimmer,
and they're getting distressed, you're right, you see that. But if, for example, they fell overboard from the jump,
Yes.
they will just
No, if they don't know how to swim,
Yeah.
they don't know how to float and swim
Yeah.
and relax, they'll just go
Yeah.
under.
And
especially
swimming
if they're
lessons
muscular.
are, at this age, from a toddler age, swimming lessons are doing water safety as part of
We do
the
water
training.
safety. A lot of parents get upset when we're not teaching all the time, but we're teaching the kids how to react and how
In
to
a situation,
in a situation,
yeah.
how to float, how to do things like that. And this comes from the baby and me. So
Right.
if you have the 4-month that goes into the 8 months or 12
Right.
months, they're already learning how to do it. Then they go into the next stage, which is 12 months to 24 months. And
Right.
it's incredible to see these like
How they
20-month-old
respond.
swimming.
Yeah.
And they're floating and things like that.
yeah.
Yeah, but then that's the dangerous part because the kids think they can swim.
Exactly.
And if you turn your back on them and they swim halfway across a pool,
They can't, yeah.
They can't.
That's not what they can, yeah.
No.
It's kind of just getting to the edges, isn't it? It's not like being able
Yes.
to jump in, turn, get to the edge. But as you were saying also with your daughter, being able to learn how to flip.
yes, learning how
Like
to
be able
flip.
to go from your front to your back, because that's what I was actually saying to my daughters. Like, if you ever feel, just get onto your back, just get onto your back. But actually, have I taught her to turn into back? I don't know. I have to go home and check now.
You better check.
Do you know
Better
what I
call
mean?
Kai Cho
It's
up.
oh, we miss him. So yeah, I think it's again, it's scary. That silence, as you say, it's true. It's the same for choking. You expect somebody to kind of
choking.
go, and they don't. There's just this total silence. And you're looking, and you're like, oh, they're okay.
Exactly.
And
They're
you're
two
like,
silence, choking and
and
drowning.
drowning. It's so so it's not like the movies where there's
No.
oh, someone's drowning and
hands waving.
yeah,
Help,
and-
help.
yes.
You never see
They don't
that.
and the
That's right.
lifeguard is
Yeah.
looking gorgeous, and he's
No, we won't see that here.
So cool. Thank you guys for joining. Just to remind you, we're talking about water safety tips. I'm joined today by Yvonne from the Family Zone and by Vinny from ESF Sports, and they're sharing all their tips on kind of CPR and preparation for water safety. And we've covered babies, toddlers, and we're now going to move on to kind of older kids. We've touched on some areas already, but we just kind of want to go into more depth with regards to the older kids. So we were saying before, I think some of the common dangers is slightly different. So now maybe they are, prominent swimmers, they're okay, they're confident, they're a lot more independent in life in general, and maybe they are training. So you were saying earlier,
Underwater
Vinny,
blackout.
about underwater blackout. Can you explain that again to us?
So underwater blackouts where we teach swimmers how to blast off the wall or push off the wall and swim underneath the water and do a streamlined position. A lot of swimmers, elite swimmers, and even teenage kids, they hold their breath to try to do 25 meters or even less than that. But it's what we've been finding is that kids becoming unconscious, or even adults become unconscious while doing it.
For holding their breath,
Holding their
lack of
breath, oxygen in
that's-
their muscles, depleting oxygen from the working out.
So would you
Lactic
advise
acid.
not to do it at all? Or?
I would advise not to do it.
Oh, I see.
I mean, even from the lifeguard's point of view, because of their reflection of the kids are swimming back and forth, they lose where that kid's at, and they have
Right.
to jump in to save them or pretend or jump in to save them. You're taking that lifeguard away from a duty of watching all the other kids.
Okay.
So, like underwater games, definitely not.
Okay.
Unless
I
you're
remember
there
my
with
boys
them.
used to do that. They
Yeah.
used to pretend they
You
were
can
dead
go
on the bottom
Oh,
and see how long it
that's
would
the
take
worst,
for the
yeah.
lifeguard to jump in.
Oh.
And they never jumped in.
Oh my goodness.
So, teenage boys,
I just
they're
can't, but I
special.
know, but as soon as like you get together in a group, it is
Yeah.
like, let's do, I bet you I can go further than you.
Well, that's
or,
the problem
you
with
know,
teenage
yeah,
boys
yeah.
or children in
Yeah.
general.
Yeah.
And I don't know,
They're
here drinking
competitive.
age is pretty young, so
that's
alcohol
what I
and
was
swimming
gonna
is
mention.
just
A
a no.
total no. That's why I hate the junks.
Yeah.
I hate them.
Yeah.
Because who's
Like,
watching the kids
no,
while you're drinking?
Yeah. Well, even
The
what are you
captain-
doing
And
drinking?
the kids are drinking as well, you know,
Yeah.
the teenagers.
Yeah.
They're drinking and swimming.
And their fear is gone.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
they can
We
swim up to the
do.
buoy and
Yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Once you go under this water, you
Yeah.
won't be able to see for like a
Yeah.
foot. The visibility is
Yeah.
horrible
It's
here.
so, yeah, it is. It is very bad. It is. And so other areas that are kind of problematic and dangerous for, as you said, I think the alcohol, I think the competitiveness of wanting to play games and push each other a bit further and further.
Each other on.
Yes.
Actually, there's one thing I was going to say, and this actually happened to my family, is the boarding of junks. We were talking about junks.
Yeah.
And my son actually fell as he
Between
was
the jetty
jumping
and
on the junk. He slipped and went between the jetty and the junk.
I've done that.
And it's really scary, isn't it?
It's the worst moment of my life, and it happened in slow-mo. We were like wheeling one of those like wheelie boats in, and my girlfriend was like making sure we weren't hitting the other fancy boat that we like reversed into, and I was trying to get to the jetty and I fell in between, and the jetty is so high.
It's so high, and then the junk's kind of moving backwards and forwards,
and you can't get up, and the buoy, the floaty underneath is filled with those barnacles which is ripping and ripping, but it's too high to lift yourself up, so you're just, it was awful. It was it's so frightening. But yes, and you don't, yesterday we were going past the water edge in Kennedy Town, and I was like, I always forget how strong the current is, because from afar when you're on the top floor looking at the water, it always looks beautiful, but right down when he would have got in, like that water is really strong when he'd fallen in between the jetty and the junk. So I think that's frightening.
So not jumping on, my son, when it happened, he was like a teenager and he was kind of cool.
Yeah, obviously.
Went to jump on and the boat just slightly moved. So really waiting, don't be pushed into going until you feel very confident. Watching other people doing it first, and then if you're carrying a baby, making sure that the person who's holding the baby passes it to the other one.
That's on
so you're not having to jump
with the child.
The baby,
that's a good point, actually.
That's common.
That's another thing that you need to teach your children, is if there is another child. What happened in Australia, and it's happened all over the world, but where a sibling tries to save another sibling that's drowning. So if the parents are in the house, one of the siblings is drowning, then the other sibling goes in and tries to save them, then you have two siblings that went under. So if you teach your siblings to call for help, use a noodle, use something, but don't jump in to try to save them, or another child. So if the two kids are playing by the river, one of them goes in and the other one tries to save them, then you have two victims.
Okay,
so
that's such
just
a good
teach
point.
your children not to jump in, to call for help, use a floaty, use a noodle, use
don't go in yourself.
Don't go in yourself. Just use something, get help, get adult help.
Okay.
Right away.
And the teenagers are going to the pools, right, on their own. We don't have to go with
12,
parents.
I think.
So then even more so, they're having to be reliant, or we're having to be reliant while not there, on the lifeguard. So that is a really good point to teach, that if your friends or whatever in a situation, is to not try and...
Yeah, because when someone's drowning, their whole goal is to stay above the water.
Right.
So they're going to take another person down with them just to stay above the water. So they'll be climbing on them. This is what we teach the lifeguards. This is why in the States we have the rescue tube, so we can back the people off.
Right, because they cause more problems.
They cause more problems.
They grab
They're
around the
panicking.
neck.
They're not thinking straight. And if you have someone that's afraid of water, they're just going to scratch, do everything they can do to stay above the water.
Just to get some air, so that's a really good point.
I was just going to say, and just to really emphasise the rules, that if the red flag's flying, that's why it's flying.
Beaches,
it's not. If there's a no running on the pool side, it's there for a reason. And you don't run on the pool side, and you don't swim over to where the piers are. These are the areas where accidents happen, or the drains or whatever, which they often seem to think is fun, but that's where the suction's going to be, or the sudden wave's going to knock them and pull them under.
Entrapment. In the States, we had a big problem with entrapment.
Right.
And it took a senator's granddaughter to be entrapped into one of these drains. So the drains are the things that are on the bottom of the pool. So just be careful. Don't let your kids play near the drains. There's been so many horrible stories. I don't know what Hong Kong malls.
Nightmares are about.
It's
nightmares about.
You hear, they do movies about these scenes where the kids are sucked in.
It's a horror story.
It comes from true facts.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, really.
So stay away from that, but just be respectful.
Yeah.
Of the, and you know, teenagers, they like breaking rules, and you get one person who's perhaps a good swimmer and the others are not good at saying, I'm not a good swimmer, so they try. This is where the accidents happen. So, you know, to be respectful of the dangers of the water, the currents, the wind, the temperature as well. We talked about overheating earlier.
Yeah.
But you know, the drinking alcohol as well, and it's hot, then they
Dehydration,
heat exhaustion, heat stroke.
And jumping is this big, you know, find a boulder and jump in, and we don't actually know the depth of the water, so things like that can just get crazy, you know. So from a now we're talking teenager who's bordering on obviously more adult size. When it comes to the CPR side of things, when we've pulled them out, it's same again. We know it's
check
seen.
Your scene.
Yes,
make sure it's safe.
Safety.
Don't forget your scene. Check your scene.
Yeah.
Get them out. Check for responsiveness. Hey, you okay? Do they respond? No. Can you see any visible signs of breathing?
Right.
Or actually normal breathing. Even if they're breathing like this, we still recommend doing CPR now, because that's not normal breathing.
Okay.
So not responsive, not breathing normally. Get someone to call 999. Make sure you watch that they're doing it, and you start the CPR. So with a child over 9, the guidelines are 2 hands on the chest, center of the chest, on the nipple line. The American guidelines are the best, I think, because they're very emphatic.
Yeah.
You look for the nipple, and you place your hand right in the center. The British guidelines, it just says center of the chest on the sternum, but that could be anywhere. It's good for this. Looking for the nipple, hand in the center of the chest, on the sternum. This is the sternum. It's a big hard bone, so don't be afraid. Hand down, straight arm.
Right.
Use your body weight. So someone like me, I'm not tall, so I get on my knees and lean right over, so I've got my weight behind. And I'm going to do 30 compressions to a depth of about 1.5 to 2 inches.
Wow, okay.
Pump hard, pump fast. I don't know if people have seen the Vinnie Jones. Have you seen that? So Vinnie Jones was a footballer. He's now an actor.
He always plays in those Brad Pitt movies.
Yes, proper English.
Lock, stock and two. Really rough guy.
I like that guy.
He's pretty rough. And he has, in the UK, got YouTube hands only CPR.
In case you don't do the mouth.
Just hands only. And he does it to staying alive. The BBQs, staying alive.
Yes,
because I can't sing.
Yeah,
but I usually share it in my class, mostly because I can't sing.
Yeah.
But it's really good because he just goes through it and he shows people what to do.
That's
pump hard,
right.
pump fast, do that same rate roughly, and you know, just really focuses on the pumping. So it's worth looking at that.
It's clever, because those are the things that you will remember in that moment.
Yeah.
So that's really, those are the things we were saying before we started. I was like, if there's just one thing that you take away from any of this, it's like that's what's going to stick in your brain when that panic moment happens, because it's fight or flight as to how you're going to.
So if you just do the compressions, that's great. You're just pumping that oxygenated blood to the brain.
And stay alive.
Yeah, that's teaching hands-only CPR, but some courses teach breaths. I don't know if you teach breaths.
We teach both. CPR and first aid has become more simpler. When we were younger, we used to have to count to 30, 5 cycles, as you said. We call them cycles. 5 times is 5 cycles, and you have to do the math, and they used to test us on the math. So you did 5 cycles, how many compressions, how many breaths. Now it's just 30 compressions, 2 breaths. Keep it simple. Don't check for the pulse. You know, we used to check for the pulse over here, check over here, listen for 10 seconds. We still listen and check for 10 seconds. So when we're checking for the pulse and everything, or breathing, putting our ear next to their mouth and nose, and watching the chest to see if it's rising.
If anything's happening. Okay. Wow. Anyway, some really, really great tips and really great information.
And AED as well, sorry.
This AED is...
especially for adults.
Okay, even better.
It increases.
It increases the need for it increases. So
and tell us what it stands for again.
Automated external defibrillator.
Okay, and that's what most poolside places, you were saying, even restaurants, MTR,
airports.
you've noticed, they'll be able, so you can assign in that moment where you've assigned somebody to call, you can assign somebody to find the AED. Okay.
Yeah.
I think is it by law? In New York, it's a law.
I don't think it's law here.
In restaurants. Schools definitely have them.
Okay.
The schools definitely have them.
Okay.
Restaurants, I know some have them. Airports definitely have them.
And even the shopping malls. I was in a mall recently asking for directions, and I noticed there's a
Yeah, the
sign up,
malls.
we have an AED here.
And so it's AED in any language?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's AED.
Even some of the cars, Bentley, I think, or
Oh.
yes.
Have them in?
Yeah.
Obviously, that's amazing. I'm blown away. I think we can always learn. There's always something that we are able to learn and that we're able to do. And I think today is like a starting point of just making you think about the areas and especially so much danger that does lurk around and being able to understand more. And there are great CPR courses like Family Zone do. They do for domestic helpers too. We've spoken about Splash that does swimming lessons
Yes.
for domestic helpers, but also ESF Sports have amazing swimming lessons. Our kids have done them. So I think constantly understanding and being more aware to build your confidence and in teaching your kids the rules for
Yes.
the pool and the water.
Before going to the pool, at the pool.
So important.
At Moey Well, it's perfect because they have the rules like in cartoon characters.
Oh,
So there's a
clever.
guy
It's
screaming,
easier
saying,
to-
yeah, so my daughter knows them all.
Yeah.
She sees the kids running, she's like, no running.
Yeah, you see, but that running is
That running is one of the most dangerous.
really
Yeah,
dangerous.
it is.
So yeah, and as we were saying, up to the teenagers, it becomes harder as parents for us. But as much as we can teach them all the time about understanding about the rules and the safety and having a good relationship with water, right? To understand, especially in the sea, we need to respect this Mother Nature because it's much bigger and wilder than us. So thank you very much. I just wanted to remind you guys that we are live next week Monday, actually in the afternoon, and we'll be sitting down with Crown Relocations. It's coming up to moving season across Asia, coming in and out of Asia, moving within your cities, kind of happening. So we'll be speaking to them about moving with kids and as a family and the areas that we need to be aware of. So thank you, Yvonne and Vinny. I've really enjoyed today, and so hope we've shared lots of great tips with you. And thanks for joining us. Little Steps Live. We continue to keep you in the know and on the go.
Question.
Karina, you didn't
Just
tell me that
one?
question. Sorry, we're back.
But it's something that basically what we've covered, just to make sure.
Okay.
So we have a question now if should parents be asking their buildings to ensure that they have the AED equipment if they have pools?
I don't think it's the law. I mean, they should.
If they have a
If
pool,
they have a pool, they should.
they should. I mean,
It's worth asking and
it's
seeing.
worth that. They're so
management.
affordable.
Yeah.
They've gone down in price.
Yeah.
I think less than 3,500 Hong
Yeah, you
Kong
can get
dollars.
them on Amazon. But
Yeah.
I don't think it's the law at the moment.
But it's worth
But
asking
it's
management
certainly
officers to
worth-
see if
yeah.
they know
Yeah.
about
And
if
some
that's
buildings,
something.
I was in Centre Stage the other day, and as you walk in, it's there in the lobby.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
You
look
know,
out
so
for
some
that. I've
buildings
never
have it.
seen.
Some buildings have it on every floor. I forgot what
Oh,
building
do
it
they?
was. They had it on every floor. I was knocked out about that.
Yeah. Okay, that's super interesting. I didn't know if there were any other questions that came up.
We have one more. It's about diving off jump boats. So parents see that a lot.
Yeah.
And any dangers about shallow water?
About what water?
Shallow.
Shallow. Oh God. this
It's not
is-
even shallow water. It could be a rock.
Yeah,
You
something
don't
hiding
know something
underneath.
floating, a car, or
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like New York, but you don't know what's underneath that water.
Yeah,
You,
yeah.
As I said earlier, you cannot see a foot underneath the water because of visibility. The clarity of the water isn't clear. It's not the Bahamas or
Yeah.
Phuket or something.
And generally, diving is much more dangerous
Oh,
than jumping, isn't
yes.
it? So I would say
Because your head, you're
Because your
putting your
head-
head
Spinal.
straight.
spinal. It's so
Spinal injuries,
risky.
especially
Whereas
at sea.
jumping, it's probably safer. I think mostly the junks
They know.
know
Yeah, they know
where
the
it's
spots.
safe. But having
Where
said
it's
that,
safe, they don't stop you from climbing onto the top with the drink and
I
jumping
know,
off,
exactly.
you know?
And I think again, it's just following the rules,
Yeah.
especially with kids. But diving, I wouldn't
No,
let,
no diving.
I wouldn't let anybody dive off a jump.
Yeah.
personally. You just don't know. And the impact on the water, you know, that's one of the top causes of
Even with the learn to
spinal
swim, you have to make sure the coaches know what they're doing. Don't let the kids dive in any pool
Yeah.
unless there's adult supervision and the coaches are teaching them how to do it.
Yeah.
Because there was a coach that we don't know what happened to him, but there was a coach at another swim school who snapped his neck. So.
But I think also when you're away, like here you can kind of think you get to know like your pool and maybe your beach that you go to, but when you go on holiday and then you go hiking and there's a beautiful waterfall and then you're like, well, let's just jump, let's jump into the waterfall, and like that freaks me out. And
how are you going to get out of there?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
How are you
also
gonna
they
get out
actually
of
here
there?
there's beautiful waterfalls that they go hiking on, and it's nice to swim, but I think sometimes you can get a bit excited to like, why don't we dive off? That'd be amazing, good point. I think it's a difficult one, but as I think that Yvonne and Vinny are saying, never dive. So jumping is going to be better, but yes, I think you're having to be more aware. I think, and when the kids are teenagers, it gets harder, but it gets so much harder.
Maybe the flips off of
That is, insanity. So can do what we can, but as I say, teaching our children and the people that hopefully they're with is to have people that you're also around with that understand, that know the kind of dangers and how to then be prepared should situations get ugly. So thank you, and sorry I said goodbye to you all and we had questions, but we really appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.